hope everyone is having a good day so far. I should say happy Wednesday or happy Wednesday afternoon. Afternoon is always weird because it's like that could be between 5 o'clock. That could be a large section of time. Nevertheless, I hope everyone is having a good Wednesday. Something is taking place in France, and it deserves the world's attention, and particularly from the standpoint of the left. And of course, what I'm talking about is the Gilets jaunes, the Yellow Vest movement. These guys are still going strong. This is the 13th week of protests that has essentially racked the country. And despite getting certain political concessions, they realized that these political concessions were a pittance. I don't want your bread. I want your, steak or whatever. They pushed for more, going further and saying, we want Macron's head. Meaning they want Macron to resign. They want further powers within the government itself for being able to call like referendums. There's a slew of demands that they want, but a lot of those demands initially started from a fuel tax, but spread to a host of demands. Then the beauty of this is not some kind of party stuff. These are regular people across the country that came out and kind of organized and cobbled together into this thing that became somewhat of a movement, getting up to like 70% of the support of the entire French population. So 13th week, they've gotten political concessions. Macron, in order to try to stem the tide on this, has gone out on a speaking tour and a listening tour, he may call it. Now, they consider him the president of the rich. I would say that is probably correct, seeing as he was giving tax cuts while simultaneously putting a tax on the people within the society itself at the lower end of the economic spectrum. But he's now going for a listening tour. But this listening tour, he said before anything else that he wasn't going to remove the wealth tax, which is one of those things, reinstate the wealth tax, meaning you've put bars on the door. It's like, yeah, you're listening, but you're only listening. You're not really going to do anything about it. This is a political attempt to stem the tide, to cut down the fire of this particular movement by dragging it out to see if he can somehow gain public support to any measure, because he's massively unpopular, while simultaneously seeming rational and seeming that he's open to having some level of compromise and talking. He's trying to pull some of the public on his side, peel away some of the support of the organization, while simultaneously grinding it to a halt through time. As a movement goes on, it becomes difficult to propagate. There's a certain energy and fire that kickstarts. It's like Big Bang Theory. It's like, this thing creates the universe into itself. But as it expands outward to some degree, it starts to lose a certain degree of energy and momentum associated with it. And you can see that in the numbers. The numbers have started to go down as it's gone out. Don't get me wrong, they're still going strong, but it started to decrease. Yesterday, though, was something momentous and something massive. There's something in me grows and swells over this. And that sounds dirtier than I intended, but as a lefty, I look at this and I think to myself, the things that we talk about in regards that we want to see in a world, meaning a fairer world. I look at this world and I think this world is massively unfair. You have 95% of the wealth just in this country going to the top 1%. And you look at all of the wealth that's distributed, all of the wealth that's held offshore, and you look at the poverty that's in the world itself. There's no reason that we can't have a world where everyone has the basic things that they need in order to persist. There's no reason. Now, you can't do that and have billionaires. Just to be clear. You don't get a different system. At least I don't think you get a different system purely in the political space. To some degree, the political space even slows you down. They've decided that what they wanted to affect into the world was not being affected into the world. And they wanted to make themselves known and get across this thing that you're in power as long as we obey. And the moment that we stop obeying, things change. Well, they've stopped obeying. I want to show some of the scenes from what has been taking place. But there was a massive general strike that was called yesterday. And in that massive general strike, up to 150,000 to 300,000 people across France took part in it. They shut down certain areas of the country itself, of course. And of course, this was also met with a certain degree of violence, even though the majority of the protesters within the movement were peaceful. This is one of the first actions between a union and the Yellow Vest movement. It was the CGT, I believe it's called. Yeah, the CGT trade union led this general strike. The Yellow Vest movement supported this general strike, and this is the first collaboration between the two. Ideally, it probably would not be the last, and it swelled the numbers, so it was considered a success. CGT-led strike march on Tuesday the 5th shut down some transport links, school canteens, and tourist attractions yesterday as thousands called for a fair tax system and lamented what they see as continued loss of buying power. Other grievances included opposition to lycée reform and rising fees for foreign students. The longest march was seen in Paris, but many others also took place in other cities across the country. The CGT General Secretary Philip Martinez said that today has been a success and that would lead to other successes. One protester in Marseille, a retired woman whose pension is just €680 a month, said this is the moment when all of the fighters are joining together. Without collaboration between the parties and the unions, we will never achieve anything. Most protesters were peaceful except for some dustbin fires during a march in Bordeaux. Although this marks the first significant collaboration between the unions and the Gilets Jaunes, it is still not clear how many people actually came out to support it. Estimate in numbers between the protester organizers and the police officer. Well, even on the low side, it came across as like 150,000. I want to show some scenes from this. Well, first, let's look at the socialist one. Right, he's doing a great debate around France. Tuesday 5th marked the first major day of demonstrations and strikes in Paris and across France called by the main trade unions, including the CGT Federation, supporting the demands of the Gilets Jaunes. More details will follow in the coming issues of Socialist. That's the name of this particular magazine. French workers strike with Yellow Vests looking to capitalize. Shouldn't you be looking to capitalize? Socialism is in vogue in the United States. You have chaos all across the world in these various countries. And I'm talking about political chaos and turmoil. I mean, for fuck's sake, they've been having these massive protests that's been shutting down various parts of France for God knows how long. Not to mention what's been taking place in the Ukraine, what's been taking place politically, the election of Trump, Brexit, Bolsonaro, Five-Star Movement. Hell, even Jeremy Corbyn to some degree is showing this kind of breaking of the center where you have these kind of left candidates where people are looking for real solutions. Should you not strike while the iron is hot? Chaos is not necessarily a great thing from the standpoint of the people who are engaged in the chaos. But from a larger perspective, if you're looking to get something done, chaos is a scenario where you get stuff done. In these kind of placid conditions, it's hard to get anything done. It's hard to get anything accomplished because people are kind of in this kind of daze. In this case, you have people who are activated and who are looking to try to get some level of change in the society. Yes, you strike while the iron is hot. I think the same thing is true in the United States. Putting some centrists in office right now would be the worst thing in the world when you could have actually gotten real gains. And for that matter, Obama. Like, they put him... That's a completely different story. Let's go to the Gilets Jaunes stuff. I want to show some footage from what has been taking place in France. Because I love this. The footage is amazing to me. I always think that gets you closer to the thing.
Ce soir, Rungis, plusieurs, effectivement, je le disais à l'instant. Ce soir... Donc on est actuellement à Rungis, dans le 94, où on bloque effectivement l'un des péages de la porte de Chevilly-la-Rue. On est plusieurs centaines entre Gilets jaunes et syndicats CGT à bloquer ce soir Rungis. Plusieurs, effectivement, je le disais à l'instant, centaines de manifestants qui s'étaient rejoints à l'entrée de la porte de Rungis. On était à près d'un millier au tout début de l'action. Là, il y a d'autres blocages ailleurs. On voit les voltigeurs, les fameux voltigeurs qui reviennent à l'action. Voilà, on voit que le barrage commence à être opérationnel. Plusieurs camionnettes sont amassées actuellement sur le début du blocage. Donc le péage est pas très loin, il est là-bas. On voit les forces de l'ordre effectivement qui nous suivent de près effectivement. Voilà, Rungis, marché international, plus grand marché d'Europe.
Normalement, c'est le pays entier, hein, c'est tous les magasins qui sont fermés. Hein.
Je suis colon intentionnel, je suis mère Nicolas.
C'est normalement, c'est 3 jours.
Look at those numbers. Look at those numbers. And if Americans got even half of the benefits that the French, like, it's a welfare state. And that's, I know in America that sounds like a negative. It's not a negative. It's just in America it sounds like a negative. And they're doing this over that. Their impression of themselves, who they believe they are, and who they are in relation to their state. All of those things are conceptions. It's not, there's no there to it. It's just a conception. It's what you believe. And in somewhat of a group consciousness, they've accepted that this is unacceptable. Oh, I love this. I don't think putting Bernie Sanders in office is not going to get you Medicare for all. Full stop. I'm just saying. Like, it's not one guy. The Occupy Wall Street movement was a massive, massive missed opportunity. I mean, these guys wanted a decentralized structure and all that good stuff. Yes, that's fine. Be a lefty. But there's a certain organization that takes place when you want to get shit done. And no, maybe it doesn't necessarily have to be this kind of full-on hierarchical structure, but it needs to be to some degree. Somebody needs to be somewhat militant in the choices that are being made. This puts public pressure on officials to get shit done, especially when you're looking at polling, and that polling is saying they're far more popular than you by like 2 and 3 like measures. I think Macron was like in the 30s, and these guys were like 70%. Let's look at one more. I think there's one more that we can watch. Look at those numbers. Look at those numbers. Like, fuck. That is a lot of people. That is a lot of people. That is a lot of people. Do you honestly believe that those people want to be out there doing that? The arm of the state. Any people who are talking about revolution, for all of its purposes, are going to have to go through them. Those are the if you want to say, the Mr. Smiths of the system, the cops. Just saying.
Et la santé est à qui? Elle est à nous. À qui? À nous. À qui? À nous. À qui? À qui? À qui? À nous, à nous, à nous. J'ai dit la rue est à qui? Elle est à nous. La rue est à qui? Elle est à nous. Et la fac est à qui?
All right. I'm trying to give an impression of what's taking place. So, I'm fascinated by that. I'm fascinated by that. I think that is vitally important. So, I have other videos, like I had a list of these that I wanted to do today. So, let's see. If they were here, Antifa will come out and stage a battle with them. Let's see. Nasty Nate. I love the guy's name, Nasty Nate. That's for some reason gross. They're protesting high levels of immigration and environmental taxes, so they are racist. It's not just high levels of they're not. What are you talking about? They're racist. You have people who are across the political spectrum in France who came out in order to back these guys up, and those people who are across that political spectrum. It started off as a fuel tax, but eventually it became several issues. Like, it wasn't just one, culminating into we want Macron's head. So there are a few of these issues. I've done several videos on this. So amoebas are greater than progressive boys. Can't protest immigration without protesting the murderous displacement of natives from their dysfunctional governments due to our wars with sovereign nations and climate change caused by colonial capitalism. I feel you. I feel you. Countries, for whatever reason, have a complete blind spot on those type of things. Like the things that they're doing to cause issues with immigration and all. Yeah, I agree with you, though. All right, I'm going to end this. If you guys enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support the PayPal or Patreon. Thanks all.